$65 billion, gone. The biggest Ponzi scheme in history. You know how it ended. The arrest, the 150 years. What you don't know is what happened after. Because to pay back the people who lost everything, the courts had to go after other victims, widows, retirees, people who'd spent the money decades ago in good faith, and take it back. This is the part of the Madoff story almost nobody tells, the reckoning that never ends. The crime is the easy part, Bernie Madoff confessed. The real question is how it lasted. How a fraud you could detect from public numbers in 5 minutes ran for decades. Past the Securities and Exchange Commission, past the largest bank in America, past the smartest money on Wall Street. One analyst saw it in 5 minutes. He warned the SEC 5 times. They did nothing. 5 times. Remember that number. We'll come back to it. Madoff was Wall Street royalty, a former chairman of the NASDAQ, a pillar. When a man like that says he runs a quiet fund on the side, you don't ask to see the trades, you ask to be let in. His strategy was supposed to be boring, modest returns. Instead, 1% a month, almost no losing months, through the 87 crash, the dot-com collapse, 9/11. A line that only ever went up. That line does not exist, not in any strategy. A track record that never goes down isn't a record. It's a drawing. Behind it, one thing happened. Money came in. Paper went out. The trades were fictional. There were no counterparties. The cash sat in a single account at JP Morgan Chase, and old investors were paid with new deposits. A Ponzi scheme dressed as a hedge fund run for decades. By November 2008, client statements showed $64.8 billion across 4,800 accounts. That number was fiction. The real money, really lost, was closer to $17.5 billion. Still the largest Ponzi in history. Remember the analyst who saw it in 5 minutes? His name is Harry Markopoulos. In 1999, his own firm asked him to copy Madoff's returns. They were losing clients to him. What he found should have ended it in 2000. Markopoulos sat down with the public numbers. He has said it took him 5 minutes. The return line, plotted on a chart, climbed at a perfect 45-degree angle. Almost no down months for years. In real markets, that line cannot exist. Then the second problem. The strategy needed a specific options market to work, and there were not enough contracts in that entire market to cover the money Madoff claimed to manage. If he'd really been trading, he would have been the whole market by himself. And everyone else would have known. They didn't. The fraud was visible from outside the building. To anyone who could read a public statement, he checked the math again and again. It never changed. In May 2000, he handed the SEC his findings. Nothing. In 2001, again, nothing. In November 2005, he filed a longer document, 30 red flags, and stated plainly that the world's largest hedge fund was a fraud. According to the SEC's own Inspector General, the agency received credible, specific warnings on at least 5 occasions over nearly a decade, and failed every time. The agency built to catch this exact crime missed it, the way you miss a building. Then, the financial system began to collapse. And the most important number in this story became a bank balance. The Chase account, where the real money sat, had peaked above $5 billion. As panic spread, investors wanted their cash back. Cash the scheme did not have. By the first week of December 2008, the account had drained to $234 million against billions in requests. The math had caught up. On December 10th, Madoff told his 2 sons the business was, in his words, one big lie. They ran the firm's legitimate arm. By every account, neither knew. They could have stayed silent. Instead, that night, they called a lawyer. The lawyer called the FBI. The next morning, an agent asked Madoff if there was an innocent explanation. There wasn't. He pleaded guilty to 11 counts, 150 years. The judge called the crimes extraordinarily evil. And this is where most documentaries end. It's where this one begins. Madoff was not hidden. He was unexamined. The arithmetic that brought him down was the same arithmetic Markopoulos handed the SEC in the year 2000. 8 years earlier, in 2009, he testified before Congress. He described an agency that could not have caught Madoff if he had walked into the lobby and confessed. Too impressed by his stature, unable to understand the products, treating the warnings as a nuisance. The crime is settled. The willful blindness is not. And the cost was human. Retirees in their 70s with no working years left to start over. Charities that closed their doors. Holocaust survivors forced to begin again with nothing. Inside the family, too. Both of Madoff's sons were dead within 5 years. Both had turned their father in. Neither was ever charged. And then there's the part almost no one tells. The recovery. A court-appointed trustee named Irving Picard went after everyone who took money out. The single largest beneficiary, an investor named Jeffrey Picower, had withdrawn billions. In 2010, his estate settled $7.2 billion, the largest forfeiture recovery in American history from one man's accounts. Picard kept going. Feeders, banks, beneficiaries. A separate Justice Department fund returned billions more, and 18 years later he is still working. By February 2026, nearly $15.4 billion recovered, 73 cents on every dollar lost. The next payment is already being prepared. The cleanup has outlived the criminal, but to pay back the people who lost everything, the trustee had to take it from somewhere. And here is the part nobody wants to discuss. He clawed it back from the people who had taken out more than they put in, the net winners. Many of them had no idea it was a fraud. Many had spent the money decades ago in good faith, a house, a child's tuition, a retirement. The trustee took it back anyway. Because legally it had never been theirs, the gains were fictional and the principal belonged to other victims. Elderly people who no longer had the money were sued for sums they could not repay. This is not a ledger of guilt, it's a moral knot. One set of victims made whole by taking from another set who in many cases were victims of the very same lie. The title of largest Ponzi in history isn't really about size, it's about what size required. It required the SEC to get 5 warnings in 9 years and act on none. It required a major bank to host the account and look away. It required everyone to assume the chairman of the NASDAQ could not, by definition, be a thief. The fraud was the easy part. The looking away is the part that never fully comes due. So here's the question worth arguing about. Should the people who took out more than they put in decades before anyone knew give it back so the people who lost everything can be made whole? The law says yes. Many of them say no, because somewhere right now, another set of impossible numbers is sitting in plain sight, and another warning is going unread. The pattern does not retire. Every empire falls. Eventually. Subscribe to watch the next one.